Welcome to the University of California's online flame-resistant laboratory coat training. By the end of this training, you should be able to obtain the proper fit, put on and wear your coat, identify when the coat should be worn and the limitations of its use, remove, store, and maintain the coat, and take action if the coat gets contaminated or damaged. These inherently flame-resistant fabric coats should be used in a laboratory environment that meets the selection criteria, such as during work involving pyrophorics, solvents, or around sources of ignition. Upon receiving your new coat, remember to inspect it for defects and notify the appropriate authorities so that the vendor could replace it. Select the proper size by first putting the laboratory coat on and buttoning it all the way down to the last button. Next, hold your arms out in front of you at an angle that's a natural work position in your laboratory, either at the bench or in the fume hood. It is not necessary to stretch your arms all the way above your head because you don't work in this position in the laboratory. Instead, focus on placing yourself into a natural or most common laboratory-specific pose. While you are still in this pose, look down at your wrists and ensure that they are covered. If not, select another size that will accommodate your arm length. Also, check to see that your sleeves and coat aren't so loose and baggy because you don't want to knock material over in the laboratory. If you conduct your work at a laboratory bench, try sitting with your coat fully buttoned. This test ensures that the size will be comfortable and fit correctly when sitting down. To properly don your laboratory coat, always put your laboratory coat on before you begin working with a hazardous material, and ensure your hands are free from contamination before putting your hands and arms into the sleeves. Insert your arms into the sleeves one at a time, then adjust the shoulders and sleeves until comfortable. Afterward, close the front of the coat completely and button all buttons or snaps. Do not push the sleeves up and expose your forearms unless you have gloves that cover the exposed skin. Wear a laboratory coat anytime you are in a laboratory, either working with hazardous materials or close enough to hazardous materials that a spill or a reaction could harm you. Remember that just because you may not be working with anything at the moment doesn't mean that you are safe from the others working around you. Know what your neighbor is doing. If they have a laboratory coat on, so should you. Use this coat together with a comprehensive safety program that also uses appropriate engineering and administrative controls such as safe work procedures. Flame-resistant laboratory coats and garments can reduce the severity of burn injury as a result of a fire, but cannot completely prevent an injury. These are not designed to be fireproof, nor are they designed to eliminate the risk of burns. Avoid accidentally contaminating your work clothes or your skin when removing your coat. To do this, first remove your gloves, then release the closures and open the front. When you're ready, slide the fingers of one hand inside the cuff of the opposite sleeve, pulling the arm completely from the sleeve. Then, slide the fingers of the freed hand inside the cuff of the remaining sleeve and pull the arm completely from the sleeve. When storing, make sure to place your laboratory coat in a location away from consumables and possible contaminants. Hang it right side out so that contamination does not deposit onto the inside of your coat. Under normal wear conditions, this laboratory coat can last as long as 3 to 5 years. For your safety, it is important to frequently inspect your laboratory coat before each use for holes, rips, tears, or other damage that may compromise the effectiveness of the garment. Do not wash your own laboratory coat and do not take it home or to a public laundromat. If your laboratory coat is contaminated, you can spot clean it if it is safe to do so. If it is not safe to spot clean it, dispose of it appropriately. To dispose of your contaminated laboratory coat, carefully remove it with gloved hands, turning it inside out while removing. Carefully place the coat in a container suitable to the contaminant, such as a plastic garbage bag, and dispose of your laboratory coat as hazardous waste. Remember to label the container or bag with a hazardous waste label, place in the appropriate hazardous waste accumulation area, and contact EH&S for disposal. Regardless of whether or not the laboratory coat is contaminated, it should be retired when it is permanently soiled, notably stained, and/or beyond repair. In the event that your coat needs a minor repair, do not make the repairs yourself. This flame-resistant laboratory coat requires the use of special thread. Contact the appropriate authorities to arrange for the vendor to make minor repairs. As a reminder, remember to obtain the proper fit, put on and wear your coat, identify when the coat should be worn and the limitations of its use, remove, store, care, and maintain the coat, and take action if the coat gets contaminated or damaged. This message has been brought to you by Environmental Health and Safety in partnership with the University of California System-Wide Training and Education Work Group.